Good day everyone, welcome to this course. In this video, we will be tackling the Module 5 of Unit 2 of Basic Occupational Safety and Health. This module is entitled Materials Handling and Storage. So basically, this video will revolve around discussion about the fundamental and vital pieces of information related to safe materials handling. This video will give you idea about the right movement, protection, storage, and control of materials and products throughout manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, consumption, and disposal. This video will also help you understand the proper posture and ways to lift, handle, transfer, and store different materials safely and efficiently. So what are you waiting for? Let's start learning by having a brief introduction of this lesson and with the outline of the topics to be discussed in this instructional video.
So magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Ito yung i-report namin ngayon, aking mga kagrupo, which is yung materials handling and storage. So, unang-una is yung ano ba yung outline ng i-report namin. So, una is Topic 1, Manual Materials Handling. Topic 2, Personal Protective Equipment or yung PPE. Topic 3 is lifting facts. Topic 4, Mechanical Materials Handling. Topic 5 is Workspace Layout. At topic 6, Solving Materials Handling Problem. So, topic 1 is yung sa akin o yung Manual Materials Handling. Ano ba yung objective nito? Objective 1 is to demonstrate method of safe manual handling. Topic and objective 2, discuss safe procedures in mechanical handling. At objective 3 is yung enumerate standard requirements on material storage. So, ito yung mga objective ng materials handling and storage na i-report namin. So, unang-una, ano ba yung materials handling and storage? So, materials handling and storage is a technique which includes the art of lifting, placing, storing, or movement of materials through the use of one's physical strength or appropriate handling equipment. So, basically, pagbubuhat yan, paglilipat ng mga gamit, o pag-store, basta paggalaw, basta paggalaw, with regards na may dala-dala kang mga materials. Ganun siya. So, materials handling to general classifications. So, una is yung manual materials handling at yung pangalawa is yung mechanical materials handling. So, yung manual, ibig sabihin, mano-mano siya, wala kang ginagamit na sasakyan, bali sa sarili mo siyang lakas binubuhat o nag-i-store ng mga gamit. Sa mechanical naman is with the use of mechanical and mga equipments na yan, like yung mga truck, yan, ganyan. So naman, ano ba yung manual materials handling? So yun ang masasabi mo, means moving or handling things by lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, carrying, holding, or restraining using one's physical strength. So manual materials handling is also the most common cause of occupational fatigue, low back pain, and lower back injuries. It is riskier than one might think as it could lead to strains, sprains, wounds, fractures, and hernias. So yung pinaka-common na kumbaga yung injury na makukuha mo sa isang occupation. So yan, ito mo naman masayang siya, magbubuhat siya. Ito naman, pinakita dito yung position nila na tama at yung mali. Yung sino ba nung bubuhat na ganyan, diba? So, what makes manual materials handling hazardous? So, MMH is always hazardous, but the level of hazard depends on what you are handling, what task is and what the conditions are at the workplace or worksite. For example, the material or load that you are handling may be, una is masyadong mabigat for the task that you are doing. Sobrang bigat na yan. Located too high or low for a safe lift. So, masyadong mataas para mabuhat mo siya o masyado namang mababa para mabuhat mo rin siya ng safe. Masyadong malaki or may have a shape that makes it hard to handle. So, yung mga shape na mahirap buhatin, halimbawa ay kung yung bilog wala kang mahawakan na kanto-kanto, kaya delikado siya. Tapos wet, slippery, or have sharp edges that makes it hard to grab them. Halimbawa ay mga jealousy, mga salamin, sharp edges yun. Unstable or can shift is in center of gravity because the contents may flow. Yan, sabi dito, mga drum o concrete, yung wheelbarrow, yung lalagay ng mga concrete para move mo siya from one place to another. Tapos too big to let you see where you are putting your feet. Sobrang laki naman na hindi mo na makita yung daanan mo. Tapos the task can make manual materials handling hazardous if a worker is use poor lifting technique, lifting too fast. So sobrang bilis niya mag-lift o sobrang dami naman ng pag-lift niya o sobrang tagal ng lift niya at yung with back bend, itong kasama to sa taas, with back bend, yung katulad nung nakita nyo kanina, yung babae. Yan, tapos while twisting or reaching too far, has to move material over long distances. So bubuhat ka ng isang sako ng semento tapos dadalhin mo siya sa sobrang layong lugar. Tapos does not take appropriate rest breaks. Hindi ka nagpahinga, wala kang pahinga, tuloy lang, has insufficient recovery time. So kung maka-break ka man, pero saglit lang, mga 3 segundo lang, tayo ka na agad. Yan. As a combination of handling task, lifting, carrying, and lowering. Yan, may buhat-buhat ka ng balde, tapos meron ka pang nakalagay sa likod mo na o sa ulo mo na sako ng tawag dito, sako ng semento. Tapos the conditions where you are working can also contribute to hazards of manual materials handling and result in injuries. So mga conditions, ibig sabihin yung condition ng workplace mo. So surfaces that are uneven, sloping, wet, icy, slippery, unsteady, etc. So kapag hindi pantay-pantay yung daanan mo, tapos masyadong madulas, yan, difference in floor levels. Halimbawa, ito, kailangan mo pa mag-update. Yan, nagdanan, iba ibang floor levels. So delikado din yan. Tapos poor housekeeping. So sabihin, may mga pako na nakalagay sa baba. Yan, may mga plies, may mga wire. Inadequate lighting. Sabihin wala akong makita, hindi mo makita. Tapos cold or very hot and humid and working environment, sobrang lamig o sobrang init. Yan, kapag sobrang init may irita ka, o sobrang lamig naman hindi ka makakita. Windy conditions, sabihin sobrang hangin, tapos sa bayat mo pa parang madadala ka ng hangin. Fast pace of work, so mabilisan, kailangan 1 second makapunta ka na sa part na yun. Talagang restricted movement because of clothing. So yan, may mga times na suot ka ng dito, mga makakapal na damit. Diba, Sino ba naman magsusuot ng damit ng bombero pa, tapos ano, di ba, magbubuhat ka lang naman. So restricted movement, sobrang sikip, sobrang bigat, kaya may mga tamang PPEs na ginagamit para sa pagbubuhat or lack of space. Yan, kapag wala kang madaanan masyado. Next is manual materials handling also involve pushing and pulling motions at work. You use various pushing and pulling techniques in a wide range of activities such as using manual carts or trucks. So yung manual carts, alam naman natin yan, yung ganyan siya, ang tsura niya. Sobrang haba. Ito gulong yan. Gulong. Tapos ito may mga box. So, tapos ito. Ulak-ulak mo. Yeah, using manual. Sliding objects such as cartons and flat surfaces. And go. Kunyari, ikaw ito. Yan. Ulak-ulak mo yung karton na yan. Yan. Flat surfaces. Tapos ano is operating tools and controls. So, halimbawa, yung sa mga breaker, di ba? Yung sa mga, mga industrial na lugar, mostly yung mga breaker nila yung taas baba lang. Yun yung tsura niya. Tapos, ito yung parang tinataas baba mo. Yan. Tinataas baba. Ngayon, mukha siyang breaker, di ba? Tapos, opening and closing doors. So, alam naman natin yan. Ano ba yung doors? Pintuan. Yan. Opening and closing door. So, yan. Tapos, wrapping or enclosing objects in packaging materials. So, halimbawa, ito may box ka dyan. Tapos, may papasok pa din na iba pang ibang klase na mga gamit. So, yan. Yan, get point. Gets nyo naman yung tsura niya. Ito parang gamit niya, tapos ito yung box. Wrapping or closing objects and materials. So, next one is because these actions are among the most common work activities, they're also the cause of many injuries. So overexertion injuries, so back strain. So sobrang bigat ng mga binubuhat mo, hindi ka na makatayo ng maayos, ang sakit ng likod mo. Injuries to slips and falls. So kapag natutulog ka raw, kapag nadulas ka. Yan, injuries dahil sa dulas. Tapos the falls, kapag natutumba ka. Tapos, sunod naman is injuries to fingers and hands when caught in, on, or between objects. Halimbawa, tutulak ka ng nung tawag ito, yung sinabi kanina. Yung manual cart. Yung mga instances na naiipit yung daliri mo. Yan, sakit yan. O kaya naiipit yung paa mo. Ito naman yung injury to lower legs when bumped by carts. Kapag nabunggo ng carts. So, many factors affect the amount of force that you exert in a horizontal push and pull. So, yan. Una, ibig sabihin yan is marami daw mga bagay na naka-apekto kung gaano kakalakas magtulak o kung gaano kakahina magtulak. Either horizontal push and pull. So, una is yung body weight and strength. So, obvious naman yan na pag mas malakas ka, malakas ang tulak mo. Pag ewan ko lang, kapag mas mabigat ka, kung mas malakas ba ang tulak mo. So, height of force application. Halimbawa, sobrang taas ng nandito ka. So, yan, tao ka. So, kapag nandito yung itutulak mo, iba yung force na ibibigay mo kapag nandito. Kasi kailangan, pag mas mataas, mas mahina yung force na maibibigay mo kasi hirap pa mag-abot eh. Kailangan mo pa ganyan ng paa mo. Yan. Direction of force application. So kung 45 degrees, so kung anong degree man yan, naka-apekto rin yan sa force mo. Distance of force application from the body. So parang ganda na rin yung kapag mas malayo yung force application mo, mas mahina yung maigagawa mo. Posture naman, kung bending forward or leaning backwards. So kapag bending forward na ganyan ko. So ito, at makatulong ang dahil. Kapag bending forward yan. Friction coefficient, o kung mas madulas yung daanan mo, mas onting force lang exert mo. Kapag mataas ang friction coefficient naman, mas kailangan mo pang tulak. Duration and distance of push or pull. So kapag mas matagal yung duration, over time, babagsak yung yung force mo. Pababa kasi mapapagod ka. So sunod naman, ito naman yung table of amount of force that you can exert safely. So the values in table 1 shows the upper limits of force for horizontal pushing and pulling. This limit should not be exceeded in work situations. In fact, it is better and safer if pushing and pulling task requires lower forces, particularly where task is required. So, ano tatanggal to? Yan. Oops. So, pushing or pulling an object when the hands must be above the shoulder or below waist level. Exerting a force for longer than 5 seconds. Exerting a force at an angle not directly in front of the body, not straight on. When a worker can support his body or feet against a firm structure, higher forces up to 675 newtons or 165 5-pound force or kilogram force 75 can be developed. So, halimbawa, kung may tukod ka, nangyari, diba? Ito ka. So, nagtulak ka. So, iba yung force na mabibigay mo kung may tukod ka dito sa paa. Kung may tukod ka dyan, mas mataas yung force na mabibigay mo. Oops. So, sa table 1 is recommended upper forces for horizontal pushing. Sabihin, either right or left. So, condition is yung kapag nakatayo ka, yung whole body involved o buong katawan mo yung ginagamit mo. Halimbawa, yung truck and cart handling, halimbawa, nagtutulak ka ng cart, moving equipment, wheels or casters, sliding rolls or shafts. So, sabi dito, sa table niya na dapat hindi ka exceed sa 225 newtons. So, hindi ko alam kung paano malalaman kung nag-exceed ka na sa 225 newtons. So, may ginagamit ba sila? So, doon naman is number 2 is primary arm and shoulder muscles. Arms fully extended. So, leaning over an obstacle to move an object. Pushing an object at or above shoulder height. Kailangan hindi ka maglampas na 110 newtons. Kneeling o kung nakaload ka. Removing or replacing a component from equipment as in maintenance work. Handling in confined areas such as tunnels or large conduits. So, kailangan di ka maglampas ng 188 newton. Sa C naman is kapag nakaupo, operating a vertical lever such as a floor shift on heavy equipment. Moving trays or a product on and or off conveyors. Kailangan di ka maglampas ng 130 newtons. So, sa table 2 naman, sa vertical pushing. Kung sa table 1 is horizontal, table 2 is vertical, ibig sabihin up or down. So examples of the use of vertical force are operating controls and hand tools such activities tends to be repetitive nature and physically more demanding than occasional pushing or pulling. So kapag nag-pull down, sa table 2 is condition na una is pull down above head height. Sabihin kapag may hinila ka na mas mataas lang ng konti sa ulo mo. Mas mataas sa ulo mo. Halimbawa nun is activating a control hook grip such as a safety shower handle or manual control operating a chain hoist power grips less than 5 cm 2 inches in diameter. So, ilang? Sabi dyan, hindi ka lumabas ng 540 newtons or 200 newtons. Pull down or shoulder level, kung dito ka pila pababa. Activating a control hook grip driving operation as in paper manufacturing and stringing cables. Kailangan kailangan hindi ka lumampas ng 350 newtons. Pull up naman 25 cm 10 inches above the floor, elbow height, shoulder height. So lifting an object with one hand, raising a lead access port, palm up. Yan. Kailangan tayo lumampas ng 315 kapag above the floor, 148 elbow height, shoulder height 75 newtons. Push down elbow height naman is halimbawa yan ang mga packing and sealing cases. Kailangan hindi ka lumampas ng 287 newton. Yung huli naman is push up shoulder height or boosting. Doon yan is raising a corner or end of an object like a pipe or beam, lifting an object to a high shaft. Kailangan hindi ka lumampas ng 202. So, ito yung mga safety values na dapat hindi tayo mag-exceed kapag nagtatrabaho tayo o kapag nag-manual handling tayo. So, dahil kung lumampas ka dyan, it's either magka-injury ka o magkaroon ka ng fatigue. Yan. So, yun lang mo yung aking part. So, yung sunod naman is yung i-report naman ng aking kasama. So, ito na lang muna tayo. Salamat sa pakikinig at God bless sa inyo lahat.
This is the continuation in material handling and storage. What types of protective clothing should be worn? Do wear lightweight, flexible, tear and puncture resistant clothing, safety boot with toe caps and slip resistant soles, and protective gloves appropriate for the materials being handled. Kailangan natin magsuot ng safety boots at ng protective gloves para hindi tayo masugat. Do not wear apron, coats, clothing with exposed buttons, zippers, or loose flaps, or heavy duty mitts. Kasi pwede ito siyang sumabit doon sa mga ginagawa natin. Manual handling guidelines. Serving guidelines. Dito sa picture na to ay put weight on front foot. Use leg to push the sole. Next, keep feet wide apart. Place front foot close to the sole. The next, shift weight to the rear foot. Keep load close to the body. And the last is turn feet in the direction of throw. Number 2, digging guidelines. Ito sa picture, pinapakita na pinupush niya yung shade down using the muscle leg. The next picture, slide load close to the body. Ensure load is loose from the ground before lifting. Lifting guidelines. Before lifting, always check to see if mechanical aids such as hoist, lift trucks, dollies, or wheelbarrow are available. Get help with heavy or awkward loads. Assist and identify the weight of the load. Be sure that you can lift the load without overexertion. Be sure that the load is free to move. Check if the planned location of the load is free of obstacle and debris. Be sure that the path to the planned location of the load is clear. This oil, water, litter, and debris can cause slip and falls. Particular handling and lifting techniques are needed for different kinds of loads or materials being handled. Do not lift if you are not sure that you can handle the load. Kasi pwede kang ma-fracture or masaktan kapag hindi ka sure kung kaya mo siyang i-lift. Next naman sa picture, ito napakita dito na itong ginagawa niya ay isang wrong way sa pag-lift ng object. Dito, ito naman yung right way. Dapat straight yung likod. Tapos yung paa mo ay naka-balance or pinoprotect niya yung bubuhatin. Human body. Your back weak. Para ma-protect yung likod, kailangan natin yung legs kasi yung legs ay strong. Use their power to lift correctly and safely. Next is, ito ay lift a compact load. A compact load can be lifted between the knees. Then, this is the example of compact load. Remember to stand close behind the load. Straddle the load. Place the leading foot. Dito pinapakita sa picture na to. Yung foot niya ay naka-lead beside dito sa may karton. Place the rear in the direction level. Bend the knees and hips. Tapos dapat yung likod ay straight. When lifting, grasp the load with elbow inside the thigh. Use a power grab for load with handles. Ito, merong handle yung balde kaya kailangan ng power. Kapag walang handle or walang hawakan yung bubuhatin, lagyan siya ng sling or hooks. Katulad ng dito sa my pictures. Para madali na lang siyang buhatin. Kapag use block under loads without handle to lift them up easier and safer. Kapag wala kang mahanap na wala siyang mahanap na sting or hook o tapos wala siyang hawakan, magamit ka ng block para madali mo siyang ma-lift para yung laman ng box ay hindi mawawasak or masisira. Use a ledge grabs for load without handle. Pwede ka ding magamit ng ledge. Pag walang handle yung buhatin. Next. Grabs with one hand at the outer upper corner over the leading foot and other hand on the lower opposite corner. Yan, ganyan. Ito sa may pinapakita sa may picture. Lean forward with the rear arm. Arm niya straight. This position gets the load moving. Stand up by thrusting up with the back leg. Yan, ito yung back leg. Parang yung back leg yung umaalalay doon sa buhat. And continue in an upward and forward direction. Keep the load close to the body. Ito. Dapat nakadikit doon sa body mo para may balance. Keep the rear arm straight. Yan. Dapat straight. Move up without twisting the body. Next is when putting a load down. Take a wide stand with one foot in front of the others. Keep the load close to the body. Keep the back straight. Yan. Mahalaga dapat yung likod ay laging straight. Bend the hips and knees. Set the load down on the ground. Keep the load tight. Tilt to avoid losing fingers. Remove fingers from under the load. Stand up smoothly, easing muscles. Avoid jerky release. Kasi baka pabasag yung laman ng dinadala. Letter B. Lifting compact bags. The best way to handle a bag depends on its size, weight, and how far it is to be carried. When lifting, remember to straddle the ending of the bag, bend the hips and knees, keep the back straight, grasp the bag with both hands under the closer and keep elbow inside the thigh. Lean forward, straight the knees to the set bag upright. Readjust the straddle position, moving feet closer to the bag. Readjust the grasp with one hand, clasping the bag against the body and the outers under it. Stand up by thrusting up with the back leg and continuing in upward and forward direction. Thrust the bag up with the knee while straightening the body. Put the bag on the shoulder opposing the knee. Use to thrust the bag up. Stabilize the bag on the shoulder. Move up without bending sideways. The next is when lowering the bag. Avoid unloading a bag from the shoulder directly to the floor level. Use an intermediate platform or get help from your comfort. Kasi baka pwede masyado siyang mabigat. Tapos bigla mo na lang tinaas tapos mo sa likod. O sa shoulder mo, pwede kang pabalian. Stand close to the platform. Place one foot in the front of the platform. Ito yung platform. Ito yung foot. Bend knees. At bend yung knees. Keep back straight. Yan. Malagat talaga yan siya. Ease the bag of the shoulder and put it upright on the flap. Dahan-dahan mo ibaba doon sa may platform. And pull the bag slightly over the edge of the platform. The next is stand close to the platform with the bag touching the chest. Ba't nakatouch dito sa may chest? Clasp the bag against the body with one hand. The other hand holding ito, inawakan ng bottom. Tapos, mag-step back ka. Next is bend hips and knees. Keep back straight. Then, ease the back on the floor.
We are going to discuss about lifting sacks. So sacks contain huge amount of mass when you're going to lift it. So it might bring burden or it contains heavy weight. So the person who's going to lift it may find it difficult to do it. But on this discussion, we will be having an intermediate platform which can help ease the difficulty of lifting a sack. So the first thing that we need to remember in lifting a heavy or a large sack is to straddle the end of the sack. Straddle means that you're going to do a position which is almost you are sitting. So when you are straddling, you have to bend your hips and knees, and then your back should be keep straight. So the second thing that we need to remember is to grasp the bag with both hands under the end closest to you. So you need to keep your elbows inside the thighs while you are grasping the two ends of the sacks near you. So the third thing that we need to remember is to lean forward and straighten the knees to set up the bag upright. The fourth thing that you must remember is move your feet closer to the sack. So in this process or in this motion, you are preparing yourself to stand up. So moving your feet closer to the sack can help you balance yourself and prepare yourself in standing. The fifth step is squat with the sack between the thighs with one foot flat on the floor in front of the other. The sixth thing that you should remember is grasp the sack with your elbow inside the thighs. After that, you need to stand, or the next process that you're going to do is to stand in one smooth motion where you will be lifting the sack on the platform. So at that moment, the moment that you stand up, you should also place the sack on the platform. So after you have successfully placed the sack on the platform, the next thing that you should do is place one foot in front of the other with the front foot alongside of the platform. So after that, you will now prepare yourself on lifting the sack on your shoulder. So first you have to bend the hips and knees and keep the back straight. So that is the 10th step. So the 11th one is put one shoulder against the sack. So in this part, you are going to readjust your grasp on the sack. So the last thing to do is to lean the sack on the shoulder. So after you have leaned the sack on your shoulder, you can now proceed to the next process or next step, which is to stand up and straighten your hips and knees. You are now able to carry the sack on your shoulder. So after that, you need to stand up and straighten your hips and knees. So you can now transfer the sack into from one position into the other position. So when you are putting down the load, make sure that your hands and feet are clear. Now let's proceed to lifting bulky socks. So bulkier socks are bigger and probably heavier compared to the first one that we have discussed. So this kind of socks are easier to carry on your back. So you will have more support on the load. So lift onto your back from a platform as described on this figure, on the figure that you can see on your screen right now. So the first thing that we need to remember in carrying bulky socks is to move the sack on the edge of the platform. So that is the first thing that we need to do. Whenever you have a bulky sack, move it closer to the platform where you can easily access it and you can easily transfer it into your back. So the second thing that we need to do is to put your back against the sack. So after you put your back against the sack, you now need to grasp this sack with both hands on the upper corners of the sack. The next thing that you have to do is to ease the sack onto your back. You have to bend your hips and knees before taking the weight. In this part, you are able to initially measure the possible weight of the sack. So you now have the balance, or you can now estimate the balance that you need to exert to be able to carry it efficiently. So the fifth one is to keep your back straight. So you have to keep your back straight so that you can efficiently carry the bag. So the next thing that we need to remember is to stand up and straighten the hips and knees. After you are able to ease the sack on your bag, you are now preparing yourself to carry it by standing up and straightening your hips and knees. So the number 7 is to stabilize the sack. So in this part, you are finding the balance and carrying the load. So the 8th step is to move away without bending sideways. So you are now able to carry or to lift sack with bulkier size. Sometimes carrying sack cannot be done by a single person or just you alone. So you need to ask some assistance or help from some person. So in this part, we will be discussing lifting sacks with 2 persons. So this one is lifting and stacking sack with 2 persons involved. So the first one that you have to do is to position one person on either side of the sack. So the other one on the right part of the sack, while the other person is on the left side. So the second thing is squat with one foot balancing behind the sack. So this one is just similar to the first discussion about lifting sack. So one of your foot must be placed behind the sack while the other one is step forward on the side of the sack. So the third thing that we need to remember is keep both of your back straight. The fourth thing is to grasp with the outer and on the upper corner the other holding bottom of the sack. So in lifting a sack with two person, one of you should be holding the top part, or one of your hands should be holding the top portion of the sack while the other one is holding the bottom one. So on the fifth step, there should be one of you that will do the command. So as the one person do the command, both of you should synchronously do the following: stand up and straighten your hips and knees, move towards the stack, and put the sack on the stack. So that's it for the sacks that involves two person in lifting and stacking it. So now we will be discussing the lifting of drums and barrels. So the first one is raising drum from the ground. We all know that handling drums and barrel can be dangerous. So a person who will be doing this kind of task should have a prior knowledge and have a training to do it. So in raising the drum from the ground, the first thing that we need to remember is to make sure that the drum is empty before raising it. So we need to inspect first the material or the drum before we will be doing the other step on lifting it. So the second thing to remember is to stand at the end of the drum. You need to stand on the other end of the drum, so you will be preparing yourself in raising it. The third thing should be you need to place one foot forward at the side of the drum, while the other one is behind. It is the common stance or the common posture when you are preparing to lift something. It is similar to the previously discussed lifting and stacking positions. So to prepare yourself in grasping the rim of the drum, you have to bend your hips and knees. So that is the fourth step in lifting or raising the drum from the ground. The fifth thing that you have to do to successfully raise the drum from the ground is to grasp the rim about 15 cm from the ground with the elbow inside thighs. The sixth step is to stand up by thrusting off with the back leg and continuing in an upward and forward direction. After that, you need to bring the back leg forward as if you are walking. Keep close to the drum. And the next one is to stop at the balance point to change hand grip. The last step that you have to do to be able to raise the drum from the ground is what you can see on the figure. You have to set the drum on its base by moving back leg forward. Use the body weight as a counterbalance. Similar to lifting heavy or bulky sacks, there are some instances that you alone cannot carry or cannot lift a heavy drum alone. So on that moment or on that instance, you need to accompany by some person so both of you can successfully raise a drum. So here you're going to use the same technique as with one person, but this time you have two people squatting at either side of the drums. The stance or the posture that you will be doing is similar to lifting a stack with two person, where you need to start squatting where one of your foot is on forward, or is stepping forward on the side of the drum, while the other foot is behind the drum, where it leans the material or the drum. Now that you are able to learn the steps or the processes that you need to do to be able to raise the drum, it is now time for you to learn about how to move a standing drum. So, the first thing that you need to remember is to stand close to the drum with feet apart. One foot at the front and the other foot behind. So this is a common posture when you are starting to do a lifting action or a moving action. One of your foot is on the front while the other one is from the behind. So through this position, you will be able to exert enough force and balance to do your action successfully. So the next thing that you need to do is to keep your knees slightly flexed. So it should be bent a little, so you are preparing yourself on moving a drum. So the next thing is to put your hands firmly against the upper brim of the drum. And the next thing to do is to keep your arms straight with the elbows locked. So after you have placed your hands on the rim of the drum, you need to straighten your hands and prepare yourself in moving the drum. That will start with twisting your hands on the rim. So the fifth thing to do is to rock the drum gently to get the feel of its contents before you move it. In this process, you will be able to assess the weight or the heaviness or lightness of the drum, as well as what's inside it. It's either solid or a liquid material. So in that way, you will have an idea on how to easily move the drum. The sixth one is to push the top of the drum away, while the seventh thing to do is to stop tilting the drum at the balance point. As what I have said earlier, lifting of drums or barrels can be dangerous. So, in that manner, or in that reason, you can use some drum tilting lever for upending filled drums that reduces the effort required to move such drums manually. You can also tilt drum by using a tilting drum stand to move emptied barrels and drums. So in this slide, there is a question here. Should drums be lifted manually when they are stuck? The answer is no. Always use cranes or lift trucks to stack drums. Stuck drums are difficult to transfer with the physical strength of a person alone. So on this instance, or on this part, we need to use equipments such as cranes and lift trucks to be able to transfer stack of drums or stacks of multiple numbers of drums, because these are heavy and are not easy to transfer. It would cause inconvenience and discomfort to the people who will do it. It can also pose danger to them. So the next one is lifting sheet materials. Handling sheet materials single-handedly is always difficult and hazardous. So we should store the sheet materials at a convenient height above the ground. And we should also remember that do not lift and carry sheets without training, similar to the other materials or the other ways of lifting materials that have discussed, which a person who needs to lift, carry, or transfer any of those materials discussed should have a prior training or knowledge to lift them before doing it so. So, what should be done when lifting sheet materials? So, the first thing is to stand close to the pile of sheets in walking stance. So, the next one is to grasp sheet firmly at the midpoint of its long side with the closer hand. You can see that on the figure below. So, the third thing is to pull sheet up and toward the body. The fourth one is to change grip using your other hand and put your fingers on top of the sheet. The fifth one is to pull a sheet up to the vertical position and to the side until one half is off the pile. After you are able to remove a sheet material from the pile of other materials, the next thing that you need to do is to grasp the lower edge of the sheet with the free hand and support the hand by placing it on your knee. So your knee will serve as a support to balance and to be able to carry the sheet. So the next thing is to stand up without bending and twisting body. So in this part, you can now be able to transfer the sheet material from one point to another. So the next thing that we need to do is to carry the load after you have removed the sheet of material from the pile of materials. You have to transfer it from one point to another, but carrying it alone or carrying it by yourself is inconvenient and can be dangerous. So the best thing to do is to use drywall carts to carry sheet materials. You can also get help from another person when carts are not available. You can also apply carrying handles for manual carrying. So you also can grasp the carrying handles firmly when carrying the load. So the fifth one is always use gloves and carrying handles for glass and other materials with sharp edges. These gloves will help you lessen the damage, such as wounds that can be caused with sharp edges of this sheet materials. So the sixth one is to make sure that the pathway is clear and has no obstructions. So of course that is a necessary thing to do. So you can efficiently transfer a sheet material from one point to another when there will be no any obstructions, and any obstructions can also cause delay and can also pose danger to the person who is lifting a sheet of material, which can limit his vision or his sight on his way of transferring that material.
I'm Prince Vijay Yasmin, and my topic is all about mechanical materials handling. First, what is material handling? Manual material of materials, article or things, by such means as lift trucks, conveyors or cranes, and hoist. Handling is the lifting, carrying, or moving of materials, article or things, and mechanical materials Handling is the movement. Next is manually powered materials handling equipment versus mechanically powered material handling equipment. What is manually powered materials handling equipment? Manual materials handling make use of physical force to move, lift, retrieve, and store goods and products. Usually, organizations have to rely on human or animal labor. For manual handling, lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, carrying, holding, or restraining are all the activities associated with manual handling. Next is reduce physical effort, making materials handling easier and faster. How can mechanical aids be used? Here are some tips when using mechanical aids. First is check for the availability of mechanical aids before lifting or moving loads. Syempre, to reduce physical effort and easier and safer sa work natin. Next, select the right equipment to complete the task para mas mapadali kasi pag ibang equipment, mas tatagal, mas sisirap. Next is do not operate any equipment if you are not trained to use it. Bakit? Example dito, may pupuntahan tayong malayo and may motor dyan. Naisipan mong gamitin yan pero hindi ka marunong, madidisgrasya ka pa. O, diba? Next, keep the equipment in good and safe operating condition. It saves effort while transporting loads. Example dito ay yung pag nag-grocery tayo, may mga cart na mahirap itulak, 'di ba? Mas nag-struggle tayo, mas nahihirapan, mas napapatagal. Next, make sure equipment is maintained properly and inspected regularly. Next, visually inspect the equipment for any defects such as loose wheels or damaged platforms before use. Sabi ko nga kanina, katulad yung sa mga grocery store, yung mga cart nila, naging mahirap itulak, naging struggle gamitin. Here are some manually powered materials handling equipment. Unang-una, rolling platform. Used to assist in carrying and handling heavy objects where limited space does not allow for comfortable body position. Rolling platform ay designed to increase productivity while reducing the risk ng ating back injuries and fatigue. Next, use a hand truck to move bulky objects. Hand trucks are designed to carry a load securely for ease of mobility and safety. They are easy to control and they take that strain of your body when transporting belongings. If you are moving contents from your home, office, or small business, this equipment is invaluable. Next, use a shelf truck to move a variety of objects. Next, use a platform truck to move heavy irregularly shaped objects. Use a semi-live skid for temporary storage of work. Dito, semi-live skid platform truck, may capacity to na 2,000 pounds kaya mas madali nating maubuhat yung mga bigat nating dalahin. Platform truck save time and space and are best used for temporary storage and transport of raw materials, parts, food, canned carton, and finished goods. Next, select the rack or bin that suits the task and mount on semi-live skid or platform truck. Next, select a stair climbing truck when moving load on stairs. Sabi nga natin kanina, select the right equipment to complete the task para na rin mas mapadali at hindi na rin tayo mahirapan. Next, choose a sturdy frame hand truck with larger wheels to move materials in rough terrain. Additional set of handles allow allows for assistance. Nakikita natin, mayroon pa yan siya sa ilalim na handles, additional handles para na rin pag mag-isa lang tayo, pwede tayo matulungan ng ating kasama. Next, use a pump truck to move materials stored on pallets. Next, move and dump waste materials with dump trucks. Move and empty drums with tilting drum cradles and drum dollies. Next, handle sheet materials with an A-frame hand track on dolly. Kadalasan natin makikita dito yung mga salamin nila, mga salamin na malaki, nilalagay dito para maiwasan na ng pagkabasag. And last, how can mechanical aids be used? Use the right tool for the right job in the right way. Next, what is mechanically powered materials handling equipment? Classified into two: lifting equipment and transport equipment. First, transportation equipment or devices. These devices are useful only for horizontal movement of materials. These devices include trucks and other similar vehicles. These vehicles are powered by hand, gasoline, or electric power, and have the capability of transporting materials and manpower in a horizontal direction. This also includes variable path equipment and can be utilized so long as traveling surfaces are available and the road is obstruction free. Thus, this vehicle occupy the space intermittently, and as soon as the work is over, the space is free for some other operation. Next, number 2, lifting and lowering equipment or device. These are meant for vertical transportation of material, block and tackle arrangement of lifting loads through vertical distance is one of the oldest and simplest device. It is still used today by moving men and hoisting machinery into position, which is other device used to lift loads vertically by winding rope or people on a drum. Cranes and hoist are the common means of vertical movement. Next, to ensure safe operation of mechanically powered handling equipment, the following precautions must be observed. Number 1, a worker must not operate an equipment if he is not trained to use it. Sabi ko kanina, example kapag may malayo tayong pupuntahan at may motor, pero di tayo marunong or wala tayong driver's license, wag na natin gamitin. Kasi baka mapahamak pa tayo para na din sa ating kaligtasan. Next, operators must be certified and authorized. Ayun nga, dapat may lisensya. Next, operators must be trained in safety and health involving handling equipment operation. Para pag nagka-emergency, marunong tayo mag-first aid, for example lang, and hindi tayo matataranta. Sabi nga ni Kuya Kim, lamang ang may alam. Next, equipment must be properly maintained and regularly inspected para sa safety ng bawat isa at sa ating equipment. Accessory materials. Number 1, ropes. Number 2, chains. Number 3, steel and plastic straps. Una, ropes. You should know what particularly ropes can handle particular task loads. Siyempre, for example natin dito ay yung barko. Yung tali ng barko, pwede ba natin gamitin sa pantali ng kalabaw? At yung pantali ng kalabaw, pwede ba natin gamitin sa tali sa barko? Di ba hindi? Next, keep rope in good condition all the times. Next, chains. Do not let chains get kinked, knotted, or twisted. 3. Steel and plastic straps. Make sure straps are not too loose or tight. Next, do not lift by the straps unless the same is designed for the purpose. Next, understanding the fundamental differences. Manual equipment handling. Una, it is one of the most conventional materials handling strategies in the world. Operators move around the building or warehouse to locate, retrieve, and store goods and materials. Although manual, it does not involve the use of power machines such as forklifts and small overhead cranes. Next, manual materials handling system have slow speed compared to the mechanical operated ones. They also lack scalability and agility, as you can program a manual system to handle more than one operation. Next, the manual system may lead to errors and inaccuracy as they rely on human labor. Your employees may not need technical skills as they don't have to operate advanced machines. However, they do need safety trainings. One of the more frequent higher risk outcomes of manual materials handling is musculoskeletal disorders. MSDs found that the most common MSD orders issued were due to obstructions on floor interfering with safe movement of materials, unsafe materials lifting, carrying and moving, unsafe storage of materials and lack of examination of lifting device, improper handling of heavy loads, and the injuries and deaths resulting from these errors are a primary concern for manual material handling system. Next, in general, continuous assessment in the work area is needed. To ensure the safety of the employees, safety is the top priority. We should not compromise it over cost effectivity. That's all. Thank you.
So next in our discussion in Module 5, Materials Handling and Storage, is about the topic of workspace layout and material storage. So just to recall, materials handling and storage, it is a technique which includes the art of lifting, placing, storing, or movement of materials through the use of one's physical strength or appropriate handling equipment. In other words, it's the proper execution of or a process of lifting, placing, or moving a certain material from one place to another so that anyone can prevent injury or any accident. So the previous discussion is about manual materials handling, mechanical materials handling, and what we're going to discuss in this part is the workspace layout, which is the topic 3, and the topic 4, material storage. So we're going to discuss two subtopics. So topic 3 is workspace layout. What we're going to discuss in this part is first we're going to define what is workspace layout and what could happen in a poor design of the workspace, and finally we're going to answer how can we optimize our workspace for maximum protection and productivity. So first, defining what is a workspace layout. But before we proceed to the workspace layout, let us know first what does a workspace refer to. So this is an office where, or any workspace where an employee or a worker perform his responsibilities and duties as an employee. So a workspace layout is the physical design of a workspace, includes setting the amount of space needed and the positioning of furniture, tools, equipment, and any other items necessary to perform the task in respect to proper posture, access clearance, reach, and vision of the user. So it is somehow related to housekeeping because both of this topic is concerned about the space provided for the convenience and for the safety of the workers. Since this is also about setting and positioning the equipments in an office or in any workspace. The layout or organization of the work area must allow materials to be handled without excessive bending, twisting, and stretching, thus reducing injuries. So, since we already know what is a workspace, let's proceed to what could happen in a poor design of the workspace. So, of course, a poor design of a workspace or a bad arrangement of furnitures or equipment may result to. So, first that could happen is injuries and strains. So, of course, in a workspace without enough space for its workers to move freely and safely, syempre, pag nagbubuhat ka ng heavy equipment and you were moving a certain materials from one place to another and buhat-buhat mo yon, kung kailangan mo pang iiwas yung binubuhat-buhat mo in any kind of obstacle, you might lose your balance and pwede kang madapa and it could lead to injuries and strains. And number 2 that could happen is less spare capacity to deal with unexpected events. So since there is inadequate space or the space is not enough to deal with unexpected events or like emergencies. So for example, there is no enough emergency exits. So aside from adrenaline rush during emergencies is may mga nagpapanik pa, no? So inadequate space could lead to improper evacuation. So there is a spare capacity to deal with unexpected events because of inadequate space. And increased possibility of errors and accidents. So I already explained this. This is also causing or leading to injuries and strains. Of course, if you cannot do your handling, or if you're handling or moving a certain object or materials from one place to another, and you cannot do it conveniently or properly because of inadequate space in your workspace, so it could lead to errors and accidents. And lastly is inefficiency. So itong last naman is for example is you're moving you're moving an object or materials. So if there are obstacles in your passageway, so merong it will took you a long time bago mo malipat yung object na yun. So it leads to inefficiency kasi it is time consuming na siya, no? Next question that we are going to answer is, how can we optimize our workspace for maximum protection and productivity? So since the goal or the main goal here in providing a good design for a workspace layout is to optimize the space provided for the workers to work effectively and efficiently, and to keep them away from any accidents. So also the goal here is to prevent awkward postures, as you can see in this picture, overhead works, and also twisting and carrying loads while moving your body. So first is have all materials at work level. So syempre all materials needed at work level must be present para anything or anytime na kailangan mo is nandyan yan. So next is use adjustable elements at the workplace. So these adjustable elements will help a lot in the convenience of the workers and also at their effectivity on their work. Syempre kung as shown in this picture, so kung i-compare nyo yung position ng dalawa, mas convenient yung tatrabaho ng isa compare doon sa nakayuko. And next is workbench with adjustable height and tilt improves working position. So the previous picture is also an example of this one. Then self-adjusting platform automatically matches worker's height. So in this picture, as you can see, merong nakayuko again and merong convenient yung height na kanyang pinagpapatungan. So especially when you're carrying heavy loads and mas mahirap yun ilapag or i-lift kasi nga heavy load siya, no? So mechanical aid or a self-adjusting platform which could match a worker's height will help a lot in lifting or handling these heavy materials. So ensure that there's enough room to turn around to prevent twisting. So since this topic goal is to maximize to optimize the needed space in a workspace. So as you can see na yung dalawang worker one is naka-twist yung kanyang body as compared to the second worker na convenient and mas nagagawa niya na maayos yung kanyang trabaho because of proper posture and body position na balance. Next is use adjustable supports or suspenders to operate heavy tools. So I forgot to mention na carrying or handling is not just for materials, it's also for tools needed in an operation. So example of this is shown in this picture. So this tool suspender reduces muscular effort and compression on the back. So aside from convenience, no, mas nagiging productive yung worker because of the aid of this tool suspender or any mechanical aid, because the heavy load na pinoproduce nung tools na ito is not totally carried by the workers, which is may mechanical aid siyang ginagamit, no? Next is tool support eliminates So next, again, tool support eliminates overstretching and overreaching. So as you can see sa picture na yan, no, another tool support or a mechanical aid is used by a worker to reach a certain height para sa kanyang operation, no, and to avoid awkward position and thus avoiding any injuries or accidents. And lift and tilt device and side opening on bed reduce bending. So in this picture, instead of using the beams shown in this one, instead of using that, we can use a beam with a side opening para maiwasan yung awkward posture again, which is there's no need para magyuko. And proceeding to our next topic, which is material storage. So in this topic, we're going to discuss about the proper storage in a storage room so that again we can optimize enough space for the workers or the authorized personnel inside the storage room. So this proper storage, if neglected, it leads to cluttering, peeling of one materials over another, and obstruction of passageways. So in this discussion also, we're going to answer how to store materials neatly and orderly. Next is what should be remembered when setting up a storage area. And lastly, we're going to answer what can be done to reduce the amount of times materials is moved or handled. So the first question is how to store materials neatly and orderly. So of course, materials should be stored neatly and orderly. So there are a variety of ways and that we could adapt and maintain. No? So materials should be housed in a storage room with at least 2 exits. So as shown in this picture, no, meron siyang receiving door and meron siyang pickup door, which is this door is not only used for receiving and picking up. No, this is also used for in case of emergencies for evacuation exits and for enough space para makamove yung materials inside and out of the storage room and properly illuminated. But in this picture hindi na pinakita yung illumination, no? And properly ventilated because in some storage room there are materials that needs proper maintenance of ventilation to keep a certain amount of temperature. Kasi merong mga materials na ini-store na hindi pwedeng bumaba yung temperature sa ganitong amount, hindi rin pwedeng tumaas sa ganitong amount kasi pwedeng masira yung materials na yun doon sa storage room. And aside from that, the ventilation is also provided for the authorized personnel na nandun sa storage room. And also restricted access. So this restricted access is also very important, no, para to ensure na lahat nung nakastore is nandun siya sa loob and walang mawawala. Since kasi kung magpapapasok ng ibang personnel na hindi authorized inside the storage room, pwedeng magkaroon ng pagnanakaw and merong mga mawawalang materials and the personnel or the authorized person is unaware of that pilferage. Next is materials should be stored in limited amounts. So this can be accomplished by providing special storage racks of limited capacity for similar items, example of which are special storage racks. So provided a picture here again, you can see an example of special storage racks. So dito. So it is necessary that we limit our the amount of materials that is stored in a storage room to keep the storage room neatly and orderly. Syempre, if we store too much or above the capacity of the storage room, magkakaroon na ng improper storage kasi kung saan-saan na lang nakalagay yung mga materials and hindi na sila nakastore sa proper storage or sa proper storage racks. And they could cause magiging masikip na yung ating storage room, which is it doesn't provide proper or enough space anymore for the workers. And then next is materials that you need more frequently and use must be placed closer to you. So of course, this is for an easy access. So whenever you need the materials, kung nandiyan lang siya sa tabi-tabi, madali lang siya ma-access. Materials must not obstruct alarm boxes, sprinkler system control, first aid equipment, fuse boxes, and importantly, aisles and exits. So this is the most important to keep in mind that materials that is being stored in a storage room must not obstruct any protective devices such as alarm boxes, or let's say, for example, fire extinguisher, and also must not obstruct fire exits or evacuation exits. Kasi in case of emergency, of course, kapag may nakaharang sa mga protective equipment na yun, and kailangan mo na yun in times of emergency, maghahanap ka pa and hindi siya makikita agad-agad. especially pag evacuation na and nahaharangan din yung exits. So, paano yun siya mabubuksan, di ba? So, what should be remembered when setting up a storage area? So, first, store materials at a convenient height. So, of course, kung you are carrying a heavy load, siguro naman hindi mo siya ilalagay dun sa tuktok ng storage rack kasi, of course, mahirap siyang ilagay doon and at the same time, mahirap din siyang kunin doon kasi nga heavy load yun eh. And hindi mo rin siya ilalagay doon sa pinakababa, of course, to avoid bending and to avoid awkward positions. Next is leave the lowest shelf unused if unnecessary. So this is for preventing bending again, no? Or in a awkward position. Syempre, if the storage room is not or masikip yung storage room and hindi ka naman makaka-bend or hindi ka makakayuko sa storage room na ganun kasikip. So it's inappropriate na halagyan ng maraming materials dun sa lowest part ng storage racks. Use vertically mobile shelves to avoid bending and overreaching. So this is for preventing awkward positions again. And this is through the use of vertically mobile shelves or any mechanical aid na same use katulad ng vertically mobile shelves. And next is use bin racks for storing small items. So of course, hindi mo naman i-store the small items with the large items kasi syempre matatakpan lang yun and possible na mawala pa siya. So there is a special storing like that in the picture for small items so that whenever na kailangan mo na yung small items na yun, for example is nuts, kailangan mo na siya, madali lang siyang ma-access or mahanap. Next is store heavy and frequently used materials at waist height. So as I already mentioned kanina, no, na hindi mo gugustuhin na maglagay ng heavy equipments dun sa mga mataas na lugar and sa mababa na masyado na lugar because it will require too much or it will require you to exert too much force para ma-lift or matanggal siya dun sa mataas na parte ng rack or ng storage rack. And of course, kung frequently used siya or madalas siya ginagamit, it is desirable to place the materials in a waist height para pwede mo siyang kunin at a proper body posture. As you can see in the picture, no, naka-body or good body position siya. Hindi siya awkward position kasi nasa body waist height lang. So F, do not store materials at floor level. So as you can see in the picture, naka-bend yung worker, which is unsafe body position. Kasi masyadong mababa yung kanyang ililift. And G is use hand trucks with elevating devices in storage and loading areas. So again, in elevating or lifting devices, especially those with heavy loads, there is a need for hand trucks. For example of these are shown in this picture, no? Like that. So not only for moving, but it is also used for loading, like loading in the trucks or unloading in the trucks. So use trucks with a tilting device to avoid bending. This is another kind of mechanical aid which is used for tilting, used as a tilting device. So that hindi mo na kailangang mag-bend or yumuko pa, and to avoid upward position again. Use elevating platforms to avoid overhead reaching. So aside from elevating trucks or elevating mechanical aid, you can also use elevating platforms. So hindi lang materials yung pwedeng i-elevate, kundi pwede rin yung worker. But make sure na yung elevating platform is enough to keep your balance and you're in a good position or in a good body position para to prevent any accident pa din. Next is these are the steps or the equipments that we can use or we can do to reduce the amount of times materials is moved or handled. Or let's say for example is you maglo-load or mag-unload ka ng isang truck, so there are numerous materials that you have to handle or to lift or to move from the truck to the storage room or from the storage room to the truck. So you can use rollers to eliminate manual lifting and carrying. So as I mentioned, there are numerous materials, so it is very exhausting kung pabalik-balik ka, di ba? And you're using your bare hands and your own strength. And another, you can use floor rollers while loading or unloading trucks to reduce lifting. So same lang na sinabi ko kanina. Use a sliding bed while loading and unloading small trucks to avoid overreaching and carrying in an awkward position. So another machine or another mechanical aid, which is the sliding bed. So bakit tayo nag-overreach sa mga small trucks? Of course, kung may katangkaran ka, tapos mag-load or magkakarga ka ng materials dun sa kaloob-looban ng truck, is kailangan mong pumasok sa loob and hindi ka makakatayo in a good position kasi kailangan mong yumpo. Kung may katangkaran kang, di ba? So you are again doing the work in an awkward position. So you're putting yourself again in danger, and also that is also to avoid overreaching. Kung nandun ka sa labas, then kailangan mong i-overreach yung kadulud-duluhan, no, pag nag-unload. So to eliminate that, you can use a sliding bed. Eliminate extra loading or unloading step where possible. So if there is a better process and still safe, that process is still safe, you can go for that for better production and mas mapabilis yung trabaho. So you can eliminate extra steps. Unload as close as possible to the place where materials will be needed. So this is also to reduce the work that should be done, no? Siyempre, of course, if you are going to put necessary or you're going to unload materials where it is needed, so hindi mo na kailangan ulit ilapit pa to doon sa kung saan ito kailangan, so that an early access or an easy access is madali na lang siya kung whenever the materials is needed. Use ramps to avoid lifting and dragging over edges. So this is to avoid lifting and dragging again. So instead of lifting, if there are leveled floors, you can use ramps instead of lifting these heavy loads. So use containers that allow fluids to pour or empty without lifting the container. So as you can see here in the picture, there is a boiling water. Ito, yan. So hindi mo naman siguro imamano-manong ibuhos yan. So instead, you will use container na allow the fluids to pour or empty without lifting the container. So that hindi mo na siya kailangang hawakan. And that would be all for my presentation. Thank you.
Hello everyone, at this part, I am Veliban Sumashera and I'm going to discuss the solving materials handling problems. In a workplace, it is necessary to have a quick and easy mobilization or organization of the storage and also the materials. And there is a tendency to deviate from a safe way of doing it happens because of the unmindful and because of the consequences, both the person and the material. There are simple things to consider in solving materials handling problems. The first one is what will be moved. We should determine the items that we want to move and then adopt the applicable method that will provide safety for you and protection for the material. So before we do something, we should need to determine what material we are moving and what method we should use. Second is where to move these items. A simple mapping of the movement direction could save time and effort. So before we move the items or the object, we should determine what location we are going to put the object. And the third one is how often will this be moved. There are certain materials that are moved every now and then depending on the need. Provisions for easy movement should be made in these cases. So we should also determine the importance of the materials. So if the material is very needed always, we should put the material on the nearest place. Number 4 is how many will be moved. Always have special handling equipment that could do the job, especially if there is a large number of material to be moved. We should also determine the number of the object or the materials that we are going to move so that we will determine the equipment that we will use to move those materials. And number 5, how far will the materials be moved? In order to minimize time and effort, the distance to be moved must be considered. It is suggested that only in rare instances should an item or material be moved to a far location, particularly if this would involve manual handling. Observe the location of the storage with respect to its movement. The closer it is, the less movement is needed. And number 6, lastly, how will the materials be moved? We can use manual or mechanical handling depending on the circumstances and the characteristics of the materials. With the help of these guidelines, possible injury to you or your co-workers can be eliminated, and total protection for materials when handling and storing them can be ensured. In summary, it is you who can prevent materials handling accidents and injuries. So it is our responsibility to secure our safety and also for ourselves and our co-workers. We can achieve this by remembering the following. Number 1 is be alert for hazards. We should be alert and attentive and watching the hazards that might happen. Number 2, follow the company's safety regulations. We should always put in our minds the safety regulations. Number 3, take your time and don't take chances. So we should take our time and don't rush things. Number 4 is use proper lifting techniques. Use legs, not the back. Number 5, get help or mechanical assistance if in doubt. So if you see any problems, don't hesitate to ask so that a certain problem might be resolved in the nearest time. Number 6, wear protective gear. In every operation, we should always wear a protective gear, a helmet, a protective eyeglasses, a suit, and also a boots so that we are protected by these garments. Number 7, keep an eye on what others are doing. It is also a responsibility to look to your co-workers on what they are doing. And lastly, other workers know what you are doing. For your own safety, for all your safety too, you should also tell your co-workers on what you are doing so that they are aware that you are doing something. Some special points to remember. Men and women should be given an equal opportunity of being selected for the job. The capacity to perform mechanical materials handling varies considerably among individuals. In general, the lifting strength of women as a group is less than that of men. However, the individual ranges of strengths are wide. This means that some women can safely handle greater loads than some men. Number 2, the unskilled, inexperienced worker is at greater risk in tasks that require skills in handling. On the other hand, the older, experienced worker is at risk in tasks requiring sheer physical strength. Discrimination against older workers solely on this basis is unjustified. Aging diminishes strength. Since the rate of decline varies greatly with individual, discrimination against older workers solely on this basis is unjustified. Because statistics show that back injuries among workers over 45 years of age are less frequent than among those between 20 to 45 years of age. It says that experience seems to counterbalance decreasing physical capacity. With experience comes skills, dexterity, and practical know-how for completing tasks. And that's all. We hope this module clarified many things about materials handlings in the workplace. We believe some of the points we have made here are also applicable at home and in school. It would be good to keep these points in mind wherever you may be. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening.